You're talking about people that people that think of themselves less. I thought of someone that might not be the first example to come to mind, but say Steve Jobs. I think he was so obsessively focused on the product and the work and the functionality and the simplicity and the beauty. He didn't think about himself either.
You know, I had a fascinating conversation with Hartmut Essler, and I don't know if that name rings a bell with you. It didn't until I got to know him, but he's this amazing designer. And he helped design the Sony Walkman and the Sony Discman, and then Steve Jobs stole them away, and he helped design the Apple computers and the iPhone. And he said it was really interesting in working with Steve Jobs because there was this, small group of people. He said, look, Steve's mission always was to bring technology to the masses. Initially the board would say, look, you're crazy. IBM owns that. IBM's a giant. You're never going to. And he say, well, IBM has the potential of 1 million customers. Apple said our potential customer is 7 billion people, right? And the whole idea of the iPhone, what really drove him is he wanted that technology in everybody's pocket. He wanted it to be the great equalizer. He said, outside our little circle, everybody else would figure out how to monetize it. And boy, did they do a good job of that, right? He said, Steve was always about taking it to the masses, that computers shouldn't be for the select business few from IBM. I remember going through this and said, why would you ever want a computer in your house? Can you imagine yourself without a computer in your house now, or a computer in your pocket? The way that he was able to expand the world and knowledge and break down those barriers, that was his mission. And then, there was lots of smart guys that, it is really interesting. Again, we get back to what differentiates teams and the extraordinary teams. And it is that energy, it is that mission, it is that noble cause that causes you to push through. I mean, think about Steve Jobs. They actually kicked him out of the company, and then he went and he did a bunch of really cool things in animation, and then they brought him back, and that's what was the complete reinvigoration and reinvention of Apple. They needed the visionary. They didn't need the MBAs. They needed the visionary. And look, you look at your family that way. You look at your businesses that way, and those are huge differentiators. Now it comes back to me. It always comes back to gratitude, right? I love Brene Brown, who says that it isn't joy that makes us grateful. It's gratitude that makes us joyful. That it's gratitude that comes first. Are you grateful for the people that show up and work with you every day? Are you grateful for your customers? Are you grateful for the opportunities that you have? If you're not, you get caught up in the great Western disease, which is, I'll be happy when.
Yeah.
Right? I'll be happy when I have a bigger car, or bigger house, or more kids, or whatever, or when the kids are gone, Gratitude allows you to live in the now, right? To live in the moment.
I would also think it's difficult to move the gratitude needle. What are some of the best practices for improving gratitude in an organization?
Well, I love, we broke it down into 8 best practices. 4 are under what we call seeing, and then 4 under what we call expressing. And under seeing, I love Hubert Joly, who, turned around BestBuy, $1 billion deficit to $1 billion surplus. I said, how'd you do that? And he said, well, we made work meaningful, and we assumed positive intent. I said, what do you mean by that? He said, well, I may be naive. I just think that people come to work wanting to do a good job. And in trying to do a good job, they're going to make mistakes, and that's okay. It's safe to make mistakes here, right? I'm going to assume you're doing a good job. More than ever now that people are working from home, and the separation between work and family is a door, right? You don't have a commute to decompress. You walk through the door. Now you're supposed to be present at home. You walk through the door. You've got to assume positive intent and be patient with people, that they're doing their best to get the job done. How different is it now that you're working and you're homeschooling your kids, or you've got a kid with asthma, or you've got an aged parent, or whatever it might be? There's so many more dynamics that are exhausting people. Assume positive intent, be patient with people, walk in their shoes, right? And then when it comes time to express it, do it now, do it often, and don't be afraid is at the top of the list, And say, well, you can give people too much praise. I go, really? You really believe that? Oh yeah, it becomes trite. I go, honestly, you think in the workplace, there are people that go home at the end of the day and say, I couldn't get enough work done today because I got too much praise and recognition. Like how many people you think are checking that box, right?
Yeah, I don't think that's ever happened. I mean, yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
people genuinely, I believe, feel tremendously underappreciated,
Listen, we've got a database of over 1 million engagement surveys. You know what is almost always ranked near the bottom?
underrecognized, underappreciated, undervalued.
Exactly, exactly. So, we do a lot of executive coaching, and if that ever comes up, I said, listen, you really can't do it too much. In fact, I challenge you to do it too much. And by the way, I've seen your 360 review. It's not you. You're not doing it too much. Right? So if you get to the point where you think you're doing it too much, it's probably about right. Now, particularly in a crisis, two things to me have to skyrocket. One is communication. The other is gratitude. Communication, because people are already nervous and vulnerable. And when there's a communication void or a gap, that gap gets filled. And you know what it gets filled with? Rumor, innuendo, and fear. None of those are going to increase productivity. Not one, right? So when you think you're over communicating, it's probably about right.
Yeah, I don't think you can over communicate either, really.
Yeah. And the same with gratitude. If you think you're doing it too much, it's probably about right.
Yeah.
People right now are feeling more vulnerable, more afraid, more isolated than ever. And the way you counteract that is regular communication by a multiple of channels, right? I get these kids, we put everything out, 7 times in 5 different platforms, and there's still people that say, I didn't hear it.
Yeah, it's on the website. All I got to do is go look it on the website.
Yeah, come on, you should be texting them, you should be calling them, you should be emailing them, you should be, slacking them, you should be putting it on the website, you should be putting it in your newsletter. And if you're lucky, they'll get it, right? So, and it's the same with gratitude. If you want to calm people's fears, if you want to reassure people, thank them.
How do you address the concern that showing more than a minimal amount of gratitude undermines the demands?
Yeah, the gratitude grinch, as we call them. It's kind of like, I've got to be the smartest person in the room. And if I express a lot of gratitude, then they're going to think they don't need me, or they're going to want a raise or a promotion. Couldn't be further from the truth. The numbers bear it out. Go to the numbers, go to the case studies, go to the best leaders you've ever worked for. And I keep coming back to Alan Mulally because he is so ridiculously demanding, and he holds himself and his people so accountable, and yet they love him because he thanks them every step of the way. He's grateful for them showing up for their ideas and so on. So look, if you want to stagnate, if you want to limit creativity and engagement and stuff, yeah, you be the man and the only man, and you just mete it out, just be really a grinch with your gratitude, and those are the results you'll get. Who are the leaders that we admire the most? Those that were vulnerable, those that asked for help, those that appreciated us. Look, we've done focus groups and said, how did your leader break trust with you? And a very common answer was, when my boss took credit for my work, she broke trust with me. Well, giving somebody credit for their work is nothing more than an expression of gratitude, is it? Man, did you see what Tom did on that project? Amazing. Snaps for Tom, whatever you do, right?
Is there anything else that we can include for folks that they'd find interesting and find valuable?
Sure. We've got a lot of platforms, and I love them all. We do a live show on LinkedIn called Leading with Gratitude Live on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1:00. We bring in some amazing guests. We start with gratitude, we end with gratitude, and in between are just all kinds of great tools that you can use to build what we call a culture of gratitude where you work and where you live. So follow us on LinkedIn. Leadingwithgratitudebook.com has got all kinds of free resources and a lot of the things we've talked about. Okay. Thecultureworks.com is our training company, and again, a lot of offers there. So those are three places I'd go. And just in closing though, Tom, I'd be remiss if I didn't say, one of the things that was so encouraging for me about the leaders we studied that led with gratitude is every one of them took it home. every one of them. So at the end of the book, we have a baker's dozen of 13 ways you can take gratitude home with you so that you don't leave your best self at work, right? And I think that's so important because so often we give so much to our job and to our teams, we forget that the most important people in our lives need us too. So if you're sheltering at home and you're walking through the door, a couple of tips. When you see your family, be excited to see them. Like just put a smile on your face and say, you know what? My day's over. I'm here for you guys. Isn't that great? At dinner, we've got a friend that says there's 3 questions everybody has to answer. You got to talk about what was the best part of your day? Who are you grateful for that's not at the table? And who are you grateful for at the table that hasn't been thanked yet? And it changes the dynamic. My wife and I, we end the day every day. What are 3 things you're grateful for? It's our little gratitude journal. That it was sunny today, that we got to see the grandkids, that we connected with an old friend, that, you know, that the interview with Tom went great, right? You put that on the list.
How long have you been doing that?
We've been doing it for a few years now. It was recommended by a friend, and I actually keep a morning gratitude journal. I try to do 8 things every day, and one of those 8 things is I write down 3 to 5 things that I was grateful for from the day before.
Have you, and I know this is anecdotal, just a data point of 1, but have you noticed a difference in your outlook?
Yes, and you know what? More than that, it's changed the way my wife and I end the day. It gives us a chance just for the 2 of us to kind of go through the day and talk about positive things. Look, studies have been done on these gratitude journals that, you know, you sleep better, your blood pressure is better, your relationships are deeper. And yeah, all that's happened for me. Well, sure. And, you know, there are days when you struggle to get 3, you know, and then there are days where it's easy to get 10, you know, and the point is that no matter how bad it gets, there are always things you can be grateful for. Yeah. Always. And, you know, people ask me often, what do you hope post-COVID? What are some of the positive things post-COVID? And I say, look, I hope that 3 things will happen or will continue to happen. And one is that we'll be more grateful. I mean, how often do you talk to people and say, you know, I didn't really realize how grateful I was just to be healthy, how grateful I was to have time with my family that I never had time before, how grateful I was to reassess what really was important to me. So that gratitude goes up. 2, that we're more kind to each other, that we, you know, that we look out for each other. We're just a little more kind. And thirdly, that we're more patient with each other, that we realize that, look, there's a part of our population that is more vulnerable. Yeah. And we need to be patient, that there are people that work with and for us that have got a lot going on at home. And let's be more grateful for the time they give us. Let's be more kind in how we treat them. And let's be more patient with people that have more going on than we thought. And you know what, if as an organization, as a family, as a community, as a nation, if that's our legacy post-COVID, then you know what? Yeah, that'd be great.